Jacob Keith, welcome to the Preconstruction Podcast.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You are looking so relaxed, Jacob. It's incredible.
Well, I'm sitting in my home theater right now. I figured it would be a nice quiet place. So
I'm just waiting for John Wayne to jump on the screen and a bit of popcorn to pop up. I love it. Are
sounds
you a
good to
big
me.
are you a big film buff?
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
bet.
yeah, me too. We might get into that later on when we're doing our 8 questions. But for now, for anybody that doesn't know you, Jacob, give us a quick bio.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started my career with Layton about 25 years ago. In fact, it started even a little before that. I had a chance to work as just a concrete laborer for them, pushing a broom and swinging a hammer, and it was a great opportunity for me to learn a little bit about concrete construction and what that world is like. But after I graduated from college, started with Layton, worked for them for several years in Salt Lake. I did end up making a move down to their Phoenix office and spent about 5 years there. And around that time, decided wanted to do something a little different. I joined the Beck Group out in Dallas, and had a great experience working with them. Learned a whole lot, got a lot of different perspective on the industry and so forth. And then through one means or another, I made some contact with my friends back at Layton, and ended up making a change and moving back to them again in Salt Lake. So both great companies, learned a lot at both places, and it's really been a great journey.
Brilliant.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
You're right. Two unbelievable companies. Obviously, we know the Beck Group, Beck Technology are sponsors of the podcast, and then obviously Layton, who you're with now. But one thing that kind of jumped out at me, and for anybody listening, the reason we're getting Jacob on here, Jacob is going to be talking at the Advancing Pre-Construction Conference in Phoenix towards the end of May. Now, he's a regular. If anybody knows the show or the conference, he's a regular. I watched you virtually. I think it was last year or the year before. Picks great topics and explains them so well. So we'll get into that towards the end. But one thing that jumped out from me with your background, Jacob, is bar 6 months of laboring at the very beginning, it has been estimating and pre-construction the whole way. So essentially 25 years. So there's not many in the pre-construction world with so much, like everyone kind of dips their hand in and out of operations with a project executive. We all go to the dark side to experience it once in a while. So how has that been? I mean, how important was getting in as an estimator and growing up throughout pre-construction?
Well, I love this world. Some people may wonder how I got into it at such a young age at the beginning. I had a mentor and a great professor that I knew when I was in college, and he really just kind of helped me see the light. And I realized at a young age that pre-construction was where it's at, and that's where I started my career. And I just haven't ever left it. Yeah, it's been a great experience. So.
And what is it, do you think, with your background, Jacob, even going through college? Because I know you were at Brigham Young University in Utah. Um, During college, obviously, your professor gave you some advice on pre-construction. But what do you think kind of allowed you to be good at it?
Well, you know, it's funny. I thought about becoming an accountant at one point, and I realized, accounting's not for me. I don't like recording the past. I want to predict the future. I love sales. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love pre-construction, and this was just a natural fit for me, I think. So.
Brilliant, brilliant. And then obviously going to the Beck Group, we talked about it. I mean, we know a little bit about the Beck Group. They're design build specialists. They've got internal architects. They've obviously got Beck Technology on the technology side. How was it going from Layton into a company that specializes in design build? What sort of lessons did you learn?
Yeah, it was a new experience for me because at Beck, we had estimators, we have project managers, we have architects, and we all sit together, and we're all intermingled, and it's a different environment when you bring all those people together all in one place, and sitting together, working together as colleagues and as co-employees, and um, it was just the culture was different. I learned that architects are great people,
They're not the enemy then.
You
Is that
know,
what you're trying to tell
they're
me?
not the enemy. They're the friend. They're our friends. I had a lot of friends at Beck and really enjoyed that experience a lot. So it gave me a new perspective. And it's not just when we talk about design build, Beck refers to it as integrated delivery, right? And it's an integrated process where it's not just a marriage between two companies, but we all literally work at the same company. And so we felt like it was a design build done on an even higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all talk about the three-legged stool. We've talked about the architect, the GC, and the owner. And when you have a three-legged stool and you've got two legs that are sitting side by side, I mean, communication, collaboration, I mean, it just comes naturally.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this is something that I was planning to speak a little bit about at the conference here in May. And we can talk about that in a minute if you'd like, but very important. And that it's so important that each person understands their role and how to play it if it's going to be effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's lead into that now because your title or the kind of the topic is building a competitive bid, a realistic GMP to win work while managing expectations. Where we all know in the last year, even 2 years, maybe even 3 years, at the start of the pandemic, it's not easy, and especially in pre-construction. I mean, pre-construction in general, even before COVID hit us, it was a difficult world we were living in. It was high pressurized. We were always asking questions, but once that hit, and it really did throw everything. So what kind of topic, or how are you going to talk around that, and what's the advice?
Sure. Well, from my perspective, it is becoming increasingly difficult in so many ways to put together a good GMP. Now, I preface this with, are we talking about a guaranteed maximum price, or as I kind of joke a little bit, is this a guaranteed minimum price? In other words, a hard bid. And both are good, in different ways. But a guaranteed maximum price is a hard thing to put together. And the reason I say that is I feel like many owners and architects are in difficult situations to make a project work, and to be able to deliver what they need to when they need to. And unfortunately, I think one of the side effects of this is that a lot of their in order to make things happen, because I think they're not achieving their goals in every case, they're pushing a lot of the risk and the responsibilities of making a project successful onto the contractor. And what I mean by that is that contractually, we're becoming more obligated than ever before to be responsible to complete the design, to coordinate the design, even though we may not hold the contract with the architect or have that power or authority to manage them. We're still being held responsible to help complete that design. And so the challenge we face is a lot of times we'll be given a very short amount of time to do that, and what was not maybe completed in a year or two, we're expected to complete in a month or two, and that's becoming increasingly difficult. So we've had to kind of formulate some strategies about how to accept that responsibility, or really manage that risk. And a lot of that happens while we're assembling the GMP.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to interject something there, but there's a lot there that could be said on this. And so I kind of have a list of strategies that we've implemented, and I wanted to just share that at the conference, and hopefully it helps somebody who's searching for answers and looking for ways that they can deal with tough situations like this.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine when you think about the problems we're having now with supply chain. I mean, just pick one thing, let's say switchgear. I mean, if you've got a GMP and it's in a tight time frame, and your switchgear is not going to be there within that time frame, it's really difficult. I mean, does it come with like talking to the client, or does it come back to the contract? How do you even start or begin, or is it about really the beginning, the start, the negotiations at the beginning, and managing the client's kind of expectations then?
For sure. I think it comes to, you're right. It comes down to managing expectations from day one very early about what's doable and what's not. we just had a conversation yesterday with a client who was asking us, how to plan for his project and how to plan appropriately for it in terms of timeline. And this was the first topic of discussion about supply chain and lead times and what he should expect. So it's definitely a challenge these days. Switchgear being one of them. So,
one of many. I know. Listen,
one of many.
I'm hoping, and we're seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with a few building materials that they're coming, and well, not that they're coming down, but they're leveling off. And I think everyone realizes that this is a new norm. It's the prices aren't going to come down the way they've gone up. So it's just about everyone getting used to it and managing it and putting it into that and eliminating a little bit of the risk, especially on the contractor side. And I mean, you've been involved throughout your career of many delivery methods. You're obviously going to speak about GMP at the conference. Which is the one that you most enjoy?
Well, we love design build because it's really an opportunity for, as everyone out there probably knows, it means that we have control of the situation to a much greater degree, and we can create a predictable outcome for our clients. I saw a very funny little photo on LinkedIn recently, and describing how much it would cost if the client does the design versus as to how much it costs if the contractor does the design. And of course, it costs less for the contractor to do the design. I mean, we can usually find a better way to do things for a lower cost. That's my belief. So
Yeah,
I think it's a better value, and
it just comes down to experience, surely, Jacob. I mean, if you've gone through it and say let's take an example, it's a hospital or a healthcare project, and you've already completed 4 healthcare projects in the last 10 years, you've got a very, very good understanding of the costs, the design. Now, obviously, you're not going to build them all the same. They're going to be different contracts and different deliverables, but you're going to have a clear indication where the owner probably has only built 4 in their whole lives.
Yeah, then that's the challenge. Is that too many of our clients, I think, don't have the same level of experience in terms of turning over, designing, and managing the process of design as we do. And so they struggle, I think, managing architects and managing the design process. And that's why I think why in many cases our GMPs are difficult processes to manage, because it's not easy for our clients and to prepare for that.
Yeah. And are you seeing a lot of GMPs, Jacob? Are you seeing a lot more GMPs, or are you seeing a lot more design builds, or what's the method of choice now for owners or developers?
It really, for us, for our company, it's predominantly CM at risk. It's CMGC delivery. So we're putting a GMP together, and that's 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, that's the delivery method. I think we've found that the clients who are willing and able to try design build usually come away with a great experience.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, coming back to GMPs, we've had to implement a number of strategies, and I don't know if you want me to touch on those at all, but I can kind of address that a little bit. Some of our clients probably don't fully realize where the condition of their drawings are at. It's easy to walk through a building and say, "Hey, you missed a door. You didn't put a door in." It's a lot harder to walk through a set of plans and say, "Hey, you're missing a door." And it's very difficult to evaluate the quality or completeness, that is, of a set of plans. It's not a knock on our architecture partners. A lot of times they're pressed for time, and their time is compressed, and it's very difficult. But a lot of that coordination then falls onto the contractor, and too many times we get also pressed for time, and we get pressured into putting a GMP together in an unreasonable amount of time. And then we pay the price during construction. And so one thing we try to remind our clients of, look, a GMP takes time. And if you're expecting us to coordinate things properly, we need more than 2 or 3 weeks usually to put that together properly.
Yeah.
Then there are a number of other things we have to do during that process. We've got to be looking for. Here's something I encourage a lot of the people in my team to do is look for some of the gotchas, the ticking time bombs that nobody knows about, that are just benign little issues or that appear that way early, but explode on us later down the road. Just little tiny requirements or things that in the specifications or the structural notes or something that appear very small, but do in fact carry large consequences if someone's not being very careful. And that happens more often than not, unfortunately. So we've learned what to look for. And unfortunately, I think there are also certain trades that are just inherently difficult. We find that, for example, doors and hardware are never fully or properly coordinated going into a GMP. And again, that's something that we have to manage. Value engineering is another challenge too, because our clients sometimes will say, "Hey, we want you to help value engineer the project," and the challenge with that is traditionally in the past, they'll ask us to take the risk of the value engineering, meaning give us the idea, you give us the money back, give us the savings, and then guarantee that it's going to all work out. And we've learned that doesn't always work in our best interest. And kind of one of our new policies internally that we've kind of spread across our company is we really can't do that. We'll create deductive allowances, so to speak, for the value engineering. And until the design team has a chance to really vet through the VE and design it and incorporate it into a set of plans, we really don't know what the net effect will be at the end of the day. We can't guarantee that. And that's hard for some clients to hear, but I think that's the reality of it. And so contractors too many times take risks that they're not able to manage because they, as in a design build process, they don't own the design team. They don't have the authority to make all the decisions.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I mean, the risk is the big thing, but I think the more contractors that do that, so the more contractors are open and honest, rather than the contractors that are able to take on the risk and then it not work out. I think we've got as an industry as a whole, the contractors have to come together in relation to pre-construction services, value engineering, making sure they're getting paid for the work that they do and not being able to take on the risk. Because if contractors keep taking on the risk, then the rest of us will have to go that way. We'll have to lean towards, because if we don't do that, we won't be able to pick up the work. So it's almost got to be one voice from contractors saying, listen, this is what we're willing to take on. This is what we're not going to take on. This is the pre-construction services that we're going to provide. And this is the charge for those pre-construction services. But again, that's easier said than done.
Easier said than done for sure. And every situation is unique. To add to what you just said, I think you're absolutely correct. And this is part of the purpose, I think, of me sharing this at the conference. I want to share what we're doing, so hopefully it gives others ideas and encourages them to handle things appropriately as they see fit. But another example would be, again, when the design isn't completed, sometimes the contract will make that obligation on the contractor to complete the design or coordinate the design, but not give them the authority to make the decisions or to hold the contract for the architect. And so it's like you're giving somebody a blank checkbook, and it becomes a very difficult situation. So we've had to establish allowances. We'll just tell our clients, look, for where the design is not complete, we have to establish an allowance until the design is done.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get some pushback on that sometimes, but that's where we're going.
and listen, pushback is good. I mean, pushback's good from the client, but then I think when everyone, when my favorite word within pre-construction is no and why, right? So once you say no, that automatically opens up dialogue and opens up thought between both the owner, the architect, and the GC. Because once you say no, we're not happy with that design, then that opens up, oh, well, what are you not happy with? Tell me more. What do you think we should be doing? And then that automatically gets the real dialogue going, because you can throw over drawings left, right, and center, and it can go between everyone. But until you actually sit down and say no, then nobody really, they don't really take any notice.
I think you're absolutely correct. And the worst thing you can do is to say stay silent and just accept the risk, and then it blows up during construction. So, there have been uncomfortable situations where we've had to say to a client on day one, hey, your drawings just aren't done. They're just not where they should be. And it's like you're calling their baby ugly, and so they take offense at it. But they need to hear that, and then we have to develop strategies jointly with them about how we're going to deal with it. But speak up sooner than later.
Absolutely. And I think, listen, I think we're getting to a stage now where pre-construction it always was the most important part of a project, but I think owners, presidents, CEOs are now fundamentally believing that if we get it right in pre-construction, in design, with the architect, with the owner, everybody's happy to hit that button and go, right, let's get the diggers in there, let's turn some sods, then I think the project has got so much more chance of success.
For sure.
Yeah. Funny, we did a brilliant one, Jacob, with Wes Palmisano down south, and he has basically built a $250 million business, but it's been specifically focused on pre-construction services. But he has a formula now, and it's basically spearheaded with pre-construction services. But he not only did that with a commercial general contractor, he's now using the same formula, pre-construction service focused, within heavy civil, prefabrication, and self-performing. And it's amazing once you make that decision, you set processes and parts, you basically get the buy-in from everyone in the company that we only do pre-construction services. Now, he talked about a little bit of a tweak to it where he's got skin in the game, but at least it's pre-construction services driven. And he says the success rate over the last 3 or 4 years, and he's been going 10 years now, has been much, much greater than it was at the beginning. And we had the same conversation. If we can get that same philosophy throughout the contractors, like you're going to talk about in the advancing pre-construction, if we can get everybody thinking the same way, I think it'd be better for everyone. Subcontractors, clients, architects, GCs.
I completely agree. And we're all in this together. If we're going to succeed, we have to succeed together. I love that about this. What I love about this conference is that we get to hear ideas from each other and best practices, and it makes everybody better. It's not an easy profession we're in, and not for anybody really. And so let's figure out better strategies and better ways to do things.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. And I think that's a wrap, Jacob. I mean, everyone cannot wait. I can't wait to get to the conference. It's been too long since we were all in the same room talking. Listen, everyone's done enough Zooms to last them a lifetime over the last 3 years. We need to get everyone in the same room, maybe having a beer and really thrashing out some problems and fixing some things. So really looking forward to seeing you at the end of May.
Thank you. Likewise.